Okay, and I do believe that we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for the latest podcast episode here of Queen's Corner. That's me, WardyNYM. That is Joe Sorella. We are without our beloved Anthony Recker today, but he will hopefully be with us next episode. If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on the WardyNYM YouTube channel. If you're watching on the 7 Line Socials, our great partner here at Queen's Corner on either their Facebook or Twitter, make sure to hit their follow button, that like button, and drop comments throughout the live stream. It's always greatly appreciated. And Joe, we got a lot to get into. Finally, positives. I mean, who would have thought, right? So we got a lot to break down.
I mean, what a coincidence, right? We finally call the kids up and there are positives to talk about. I mean, that one really caught me from left field. Like, who would have thought that would be possible? We actually bring up Vientos and Beatty and Alvarez, and now we can talk about some good baseball. I don't know, man. Seems like rocket science.
You're killing me. It would seem like rocket science depending on who you're just talking about, but it's crazy how it's May 19th at the time of us being live here, and we have 3 of our top prospects in the lineup, 1, and being productive, 2, and 3 stepping up and being key factors in the victories against the best team in baseball. It doesn't really get much better than that. So we're going to be going over, obviously, our raw reactions and recapping this huge series win against the Tampa Bay Rays. Then from there, talking a little bit more on the kids. Lineup configuration. I want to know Joe's thoughts, especially on how Buck has been rolling out the lineups as of late. Does he like it? Does he not like it? How is playing time going to go? Gary Sanchez was called up. How much playing time, if at all, is he going to get? And of course, deep diving that Guardian series preview, in which our good friends at the 7 Line will be having their outing this Saturday, barring the weather, and I'll be in attendance too for pregame, so I'll be talking about that more shortly. But let's just get right into this. I of course was at that electric game 2 of the series, but before I share more of my reactions, Joe, I want to know yours. What is your biggest takeaway and reactions to see the Mets again take 2-3 at home against the best team in baseball after not winning a series in literally a month against bad teams for the most part?
Well, first off, you saw the video, right? I had just gotten home, the video I sent to the group chat. I had just gotten home from work, and I was in my apartment doing a workout, and I go, it's 7-5. We're probably going to lose, but we've got first and third, so the tying runs on base, 1 out in the 10th. Let me turn the game on. I turned the game on as Pete's walking up to home plate, and I'm just standing there in my living room, and I go, come on, Pete. Come on, end this thing with 1 swing. And then he does it. I mean, Wardy, we had just been talking about the fact that the Mets in 2023 have not had a signature win yet this season. Last year, by this point, you already had the, 7-run comeback in Philly in the 9th inning. You had the 2-0 comeback against St. Louis when we were down to our final out in that game, hadn't scored a run. You had the combined no-hitter already at this point. There's probably another game or 2 I'm missing. You had walk-off homers. Oh, Pete, another game against the Cardinals in that, I don't know if it was a doubleheader at home in April.
Yes.
Yes,
you're right. Yep.
I mean, the 2022 Mets were filled with signature moments, signature wins. That's why that team felt like such a team of destiny, right? 2023, even when the Mets were winning games, I mean, don't forget, we were 14-7 to start the season. We had a great West Coast road trip. We started that bad boy. What was it, a 10-game trip? We finished 6-4. We started at 6-2, if I'm not mistaken. I think we started 7-1 and we finished 7-3.
Yes.
So even when we won 7 of our first 8 on the West Coast, and when we had some success earlier in the season, there weren't any signature wins. This was finally our signature win. Down 2-0, Vientos ties it with 1 swing. Down 5-2, our final out, Alvarez ties it with 1 swing. Down 7-5, bottom of the 10th, Alonso wins it with 1 swing. What's wild is that in the first 2 games of this series, and then it bled over into yesterday's finale, how many runs did we score in game 1? 5. And then we scored 8, I believe. We scored 8 in game 2, so that's 13 runs. Yesterday, Alonso hit the solo shot. Our first 14 runs in this series all came via the home run. It really shows you it's 2023. If you want to play winning baseball, you got to hit the ball out of the park. And these kids, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez, all went deep this series. It's translating to winning baseball. This lineup needed a spark. I said it last episode. I would do some vile things to get 20 home runs out of the DH position. Bogey ain't going to get us 20 home runs, but Vientos and Beatty, if they take turns DHing, they for sure will. They'll probably get us 35-40 combined. So this team, it's got some spark, it's got some power, and they just went and took 2 out of 3 against the best team in baseball after losing game 1 with our ace on the mound. They came back to win 2 out of 3. I mean, what a series.
What a series indeed. I mean, yeah, you had your stopper there in game 1. You're like, okay, you're just praying that JV can do what JV does best, and he gives up 6 runs, 2 multi-run home runs to Isaac Paredes, and before the Mets even had a chance, they were down 6-0 in game 1. Of course, they had 3 bombs separately, led by Brett Beatty there to start things off there in that game 1, but they still faltered 8-5, right? And then as we head into game 2, and I was in attendance, it was a chilly night at Citi Field, but boy, oh boy, was it worth it. You know, you saw the game start. Let's just emphasize for a second, not only the kids, but Kodai Senga having his best start of the season. 6 innings, 12 strikeouts. He was 8 whiffs on the 11. He was 8 for 11 on whiffs for his ghost fork that he threw. 4 of his 12 strikeouts were via ghost fork as well. He looked phenomenal in person. He walked 3, I think, but again, overall, still went 6 innings when he was striking out everybody and their mother. He was so locked in. It was great to see. I was even a little bit more impressed, honestly. I know this might not seem like a big deal, but for Kodai to carve up these hairs, especially when it was, again, a chilly day at Citi Field. You know, for him that's used to playing inside a dome across seas to now coming to the States here on this East Coast. A lot of reasons why a lot of Japanese pitchers usually don't say come to the East Coast unless you are a Tanaka, for instance, with the Yanks. It's because they don't love the weather. But Kodai has dominated at Citi Field thus far this year. He has just over a 1-year array, if I'm not mistaken. He has killed it. And if it wasn't for him, you know, who knows what would have happened in that game, because it was a 1-0 Rays lead, then a 2-0 Rays lead, and then Mark Vientos, as we saw on his first day of the call-up, the Mets fan who grew up one, he rips a dead center bomb to tie the ball game just when you need it most. And then Adam Ottavino after says, I'm going to give it right back up. So I know Rec is having a smirk on his face somewhere. I, of course, was distraught when that took place. So it's 4-2.
Anthony Recker, Adam Ottavino's biggest fan.
Literally, right? So if you know, you know, if you guys have been following the podcast. But then you get, of course, Alvarez with 2 outs in the 9th. I mean, for him to do what he did, it was a 77-mile-per-hour off-speed pitch, breaking ball, whatever it was, by Adam. And he just absolutely nuked it. Did his best El Mago impression, I thought, with that celly. That gave me a lot of Javi Baez vibes as he then held the bat, was doing the stare and just jumping. And then, of course, in extras, we saw with Alonso, who battled the flu all series long. Yeah, hit home runs in 3 consecutive games to ultimately lead the Mets not only to their Game 2 win, which was the best game of the season by far, but the series win as a whole. So, expanding further just for a second before we get into the kids, on Pete Alonso, what has your impression been? You know, we saw him really go through some tough stretches over this past month against bad teams. He's back home. He's not even healthy, and he's just absolutely ripping nukes left and right.
Yeah, how about you answer that $5 hollow we got, that little dono, and then I'll get into Pete Alonso.
Okay, let's get it. Oh, Isaiah says Mets are a joke. Aw, someone's upset. Aw.
Yeah, it's all right, Isaiah.
Aw, it's okay. You're going to get through this, I promise. Unrelated question says with the $5 donation, thank you so much. Joe, did anybody leave a good taste in your mouth this series? That's a great question.
Yeah.
Who wants a good taste?
Oh, everyone did. First off, I mean, the lineup just took turns this series. It was insane. But look, we're going to talk about the kids. So I'm going to talk about 2 vets. One of these quote-unquote vets is technically a rookie, but he's almost 30 years old. Kodai Senga to start. Now, look, Wardy, you were at the game, so you could speak more to his performance than I can. I was at work. I couldn't even watch the game. But to me, what stands out, obviously 12 Ks in 6 innings, that pops off. But, I mean, Senga, we've seen him have, 8, 9 Ks and only be able to go 4 2/3 because he runs his pitch count up so damn high. So to me, even more impressive than the 12 Ks is we got 6 strong innings out of him. He kept that pitch count under control.
Bingo.
But we've seen Kodai Senga get flustered with men on base this season. He had that bad first inning against Cincinnati. Now, I know that there was actually a lot of bad luck a la Spencer Strider in that first inning against the Reds, but we've seen Senga get flustered working out of the stretch, and we typically see that his command is a lot better out of the windup than it is out of the stretch. So what impressed me was, because even though I was at work and I couldn't watch the game, I'm checking my phone for updates constantly, and I'm seeing Ray's got a guy on first. Ray's got a guy on second, no outs, and Senga's stranding these runners on base. He has not really been good at stranding runners on base this season. So to see that he was resilient and he bounced back from those situations and he did what he needed to do. Not only did he shove, but he kept the Mets in the ball game. He didn't slip up. He didn't collapse when it looked like the offense was anemic and they were losing 1-0, 2-0 after 6. He kept them in the ball game. That's all you can ask from a guy who has ace potential. He's not our ace yet, but a guy who has ace potential in Kodai Senga. So he really impressed me. And then we got to go Pete. I mean, 3 homers in 3 days, under the weather, sick as a dog. And you look at the pitches that he knocked out. You mentioned the Alvarez home run. I was texting my buddy, works for the MLB Players Association. He's a big Rays fan out of Tampa. And he texted me. I think I sent you the screenshots to the group chat where he was like, dude, I'm not sold on this Alvarez.
He sounded
kid.
like you a month ago. That's I thought you were sending me your text.
Looks like a bust. I'm not sold on him. And I was like, yeah, well, he got off to a really slow start, but he's actually been playing a lot better as of late. And then Alvarez hits that home run, and I texted the guy, you sold yet? I mean, in all fairness, if he didn't hit that pitch out of the park into the second deck or off the facing of the second deck, we would have had an issue. That was not a 77-mile-per-hour curveball. That was not a 77-mile-per-hour breaking ball. That was a 77-mile-per-hour spinner. That's what it was. It was a spinner. It was a hanger. It was a T-ball. And Alvarez turned around, looked the Rays catcher in the eye. I think it was Betancourt that night. And said, I'll take care of this one, buddy. I mean, that was every hitter's dream pitch to just open up, turn on, and crank to left center.
He was probably like a little giddy kid, like in his head, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like
100%. As that pitch is coming in, you're like, there's no way. Like, it's too good to be true. That's the kind of pitch when you're a little kid and you're a sore loser playing MLB The Show, you like switch controllers to the other team. And you throw your own team that pitch, you know? But I mean, so that, you know, that home run, I'm digressing a little bit, but that home run, that was a gimme. The Alonso home run, 98 miles per hour, up and away in the zone. And Pete crushed it. And then yesterday in the finale, 97, almost the same spot, up and away. Like when Pete's on, he's able to cover that outside corner. When he's slumping, he can't because he's pulling out too early, trying to pull everything down the left field line. When he's on, he covers the whole plate. And I mean, yesterday, you know, hit that one straightaway center. Obviously, 2 nights ago, he pulled it to left to the second deck. The old, I mean, that thing's gone through so many names. It used to be the Bud Light Landing. I don't know what it's called now, that left field second deck. But Pete just absolutely, I mean, covering the plate, catching up to 97 and 98 on the outside corner and just saying, I'll take care of this one. Pete and Senga, we're going to get into the kids more, but those two had phenomenal series.
They did. And another one that shouldn't be slept on is Tyler McGill, giving the Mets 6 strong innings yesterday against the Tampa Rays. Too. Great pitch count, only 79 pitches. Could have went for 7, but I understood Buck's decision to pull him against, again, a Rays team that reads pitchers so well, especially third time through the order. So I thought that was a good timing to honestly take him out because McGill was getting beaten around a little bit that we saw there in the 6th inning. That's where he gave up his 2nd run. So overall, really, really sharp pitching. It's crazy how, you know, your sharp pitching was from anyone but Justin Verlander in this series. And now JV's going to look to make up for that in this upcoming matchup against the Cleveland Guardians that we'll be getting into shortly. But let's talk more about the kids and also shout out all my live members watching here on YouTube, or for anyone that's watching on the 7 Line socials, make sure to smash that like button. The support is greatly appreciated. And I see also Ida saying, you know, Ida was a giveaway winner a couple months ago on the channel. She got herself a Kodai Senga shirt and that I sent her, and the first time she wears it, and Senga goes with the 6 innings of 1 earned run ball and 12 strikeouts. So I think you got to wear that every single start at this rate. That's a great time to be repping your Kodai shirt. You love to see that. But now let's get into the kids, okay? Like we said, Mark Vientos, of course, his first game as a Met, and talk about clutch. This guy did what no one else could at this point in the game, and that was actually barrel baseball properly. Going dead center, Jose Siri almost got it, but it wasn't enough as Vientos rips his first home run in his first game. So what's your raw reaction to Vientos' immediate impact, starting at third base, no less? How you feel about that as well, along with Alvarez and really how much he has changed in a positive manner since his call-up initially, and Brett Beatty, again, getting the party started with home runs. All 3 kids hit home runs in this series, and it started with Beatty there in game 1.
Yeah, I'll save my thoughts for the next segment for the lineup configuration about Vientos getting the start at third base. But I will say on that home run, it was pretty funny. Gary Cohen thought that ball was staying in the park.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't think that thing was leaving. I don't know if you went back and
should be playable for Syria. He's like, well.
Right. I mean, that thing just kept carrying and carrying and carrying. And that's like the opposite of what we're accustomed to at Citi Field. Usually it's like balls hit really well and it stays in the park. No, Vientos needs to be in this lineup almost every night. You know, like, I mean, I get giving Vogie some reps. You know, I know he's got a really good OBP. The OPS, not so much because he's not really slugging the ball, but he's got, close to a 400 clip on that OBP. So I get it, giving him, maybe 2 games a week. But I need Vientos in there, minimum 4 nights a week. He's just, his swing is so much more, I'm going to use the word mature than last season.
Yes.
It's a little shorter. Like Alvarez, too, these guys came up and they had those long, loopy swings with a lot of holes in them where you could throw them, you could pitch these guys hard and inside and then go, low and away to that breaking ball and just have them look stupid. Because when you're at AAA, Recker has spoken to this from personal experience. It's the biggest jump in sports, AAA to the big leagues, because you're dealing with, AA is where a lot of like the big prospects are. But when you get to AAA, it's a mix of prospects who are knocking on the door or career AAA guys, or like those 4A guys who are just, never really going to be permanent big league fixtures. They make a living, make a career being AAA guys, taxi squad guys. So it really is a humongous jump. And last year, Vientos and Alvarez got called up and were just completely overpowered and overmatched. Alvarez looked overmatched early this year. He's coming along. Vientos, 13 homers in AAA. It's nuts. 13 homers in less than 6 weeks.
Early in the season, too, when he's notorious for not doing well to start a season in minors.
Right, he's usually like a summer performer.
Yes,
exactly.
It
makes sense. The kid's from Florida. He likes the warm weather. Syracuse is freezing in the month of April, but he's been raking up there. And it's funny, Mauricio, too, Latino kid, doesn't like the cold. 7 home runs, 6 weeks up in Syracuse. I'm ready for Mauricio to come up. Let's get Tommy Pham or Mark Canha or someone a phantom IL stint, and let's call it Mauricio. Just make Jeff McNeil the everyday left fielder at this point. But yeah, Vientos needs to be in the lineup. He's barreling balls. He's been doing it consistently this year at both levels. Small sample size, obviously, in the bigs. But yeah, Beatty, we'll get to this with the lineup configuration segment, but I want to see Beatty up in the lineup. I want to see Alvarez and Vientos there protecting him, and just get these guys some consistent reps. That's all I ask.
Yeah, especially you have to. There's no way to not justify it after what we just saw. Again, against baseball's best team right now. That should not be understated or slighted, going out and performing the way that all these kids did against the top dogs currently in all of baseball. That's something to be said about their maturity and how much they develop fast. And one thing that really stood out to me about Vientos is that I saw this statistic really interesting. He has basically cut his K percentage in half over the past 25 games in AAA from how he started the year in AAA. So you could see he really got locked in and quick, and he's starting to see breaking balls really, really well. You saw his homer as well was a slider that he was able to go dead center. So I'm really impressed with Vientos. We all knew that the bat-to-ball skills were certainly there with him. That's what's going to carry him in his career, right? Same thing can be said with Brett Beatty. They are offensively minded players first and foremost. And same thing with Alvarez. For that, actually, the more I talk about it, every Mets top prospect is led by their bat right now. And
although Alvarez's glove, I will say, has been the biggest surprise.
Oh my God.
The dude's got a nuke of an arm.
He's got a nuke of an arm. He's looking great.
He's looked good back there.
Yes.
That to me has been the biggest surprise, because I always kind of thought Alvarez might grow into a DH role, and Kevin Parada,
I agree.
if he wasn't traded,
yes,
would be the
100%
catcher.
agree. Yep.
But Alvarez really, it shows that there were talks and murmurs this spring training about him and growing on the defensive side of his game, and that's come to fruition so far. We've seen Alvarez back there look really good behind the dish defensively.
Oh my God, yeah. I've been beyond impressed with that. Who wasn't, right? That was the one thing that we weren't having a high expectation of when he was initially brought up, and seeing him have great frame jobs doing what he's doing, throwing out runners. And even though that they ran on him a lot in that Rays series, that's more so of just the Rays having great base running than it was him not dotting an eye, because he was absolutely throwing.
Rays, first off, look, they're a smart team, so they know, with all the analytics that they have,
they know exactly
what
office, pitchers to run on.
They know when to run, who they can run on, and whatnot. But they're also like a speedy team. The Rays they're a pesky team. The fact we just took 2 out of 3 from Tampa, going into the year, I would have said we're at home, we should take 2 out of 3 from everyone. But the way things have been going, man, losing series to the Nationals, then splitting with the Nationals, losing series to Colorado, to Cincinnati, it's like I had zero faith. I was just like, don't get swept going into this series. I'm like, you got JV on the mound, win game 1, and then you'll probably lose the next 2.
Yeah.
The opposite happened. But that was a great series.
It was a great series. And let's dive into the lineup configuration, because I'm gonna be blunt.
A lot to say.
I have not been happy with the lineup at all for easily what feels like the past week at minimum. And I'm usually not that guy to nitpick lineups, especially early in the year with Buck. Last year, all you would see me is defending Buck because people would still have the right to complain with Jankowski and Gourmet. And I'm like, we're winning ball games. We're winning every series, and we're giving our veterans rest. I'm like, this is a good recipe. If it ain't broke, why fix it, right? But this is different because aside from Tommy Pham, who deserves credit because he had 2 hits yesterday, had the game-winning run, albeit it was an infield single, but he was able to still put the ball in play, had a double in the 8th. So Pham, I'm not going to nitpick as much here because he at least was able to give the Mets some type of production. I don't like him batting 5th. I sure as hell didn't like him batting 4th against the Nationals, but go ahead, Joe.
Wardy,
Yeah.
I love you. I know it was the game-winning RBI. He hit a ground ball with an exit velo of about 37 miles per hour.
But that just
He's not
shows
a
you.
freaking number 5 hitter.
But that just shows you maybe soft contact is what he needs because all he's done is hit baseballs hard this year, and he's gotten nothing out of it, like little to nothing.
Highest exit velo on the team, or was that an estimate?
I'm pretty sure. No, Pham.
Second highest.
Pham is a strong mofo. He's always when he barrels, it's hard hit, but he's grounding out right away, or he's flying out like he's having terrible looking strikeouts too. That's another issue. I mean, Pham's at bats can be brutal at times, but again, not trying to harp on him too much.
He can either look like a great hitter, like a guy who's got 30 home run potential, or he looks lost up there. It's what you get. I'm okay with Tommy Pham in a lineup if he's hitting 7th, but right now, to me, the biggest thing I want to see with this lineup, I get when you bring the kids up, you don't want the pressure on them. You want to hit them 8th. You want to hit them 9th. Ease them in. I understand and I appreciate that. I agree with that. Alvarez has been hitting much better for quite a while now. Move him up out of the 8-9 hole. Francisco Alvarez should be hitting 6th or 7th, should be in a position where Jeff McNeil or Brett Beatty or Francisco Lindor is on base and he can drive their asses in. The Mets lineup should look like this right now. Brandon Nimmo leading off center field. Jeff McNeil. I guess we'll still put him at second base because Mauricio's not here. So Jeff McNeil hitting second base. Hitting 3rd, shortstop, Lindor. Hitting cleanup, first base, Alonso, right? That's been that way. He's done the right thing there. Marte is out of the 2-hole. Now it should be hitting 5th at 3rd base, Brett Beatty. 6, 7, 8, 9 is where it gets interesting. I'm going to tell you right now, I want the 9 hitter to be Mark Canha.
Thank you.
Because I think Mark Canha actually, and this is not saying that he's the worst hitter in the lineup. This is saying he profiles really well as a second leadoff guy. Mark Canha is known his whole career for being a guy who can work long counts, who can foul pitches off, who can be pesky, who gets on base.
Yep.
And if Mark Canha gets on base, he can run. He's an above-average runner. And then you got Brandon Nimmo, a guy who's just a great gap-to-gap hitter who can actually produce some RBIs out of the leadoff spot. So Mark Canha 9 and 6, 7, 8 is where it gets tricky. Right now, the way things have gone, I'd love to see Alvarez 6, Vientos 7, Marte 8. I understand Marte's reputation. Probably not going to move him any lower than that 6th spot. And I can appreciate that. So I would go Beatty 5, throw the lefty in there between Pete and Marte. Marte 6, and then 7, 8, Alvarez Vientos. Or Vientos Alvarez, depending on who the hot hand becomes. I know you're still ending up hitting one of them 8th, hitting one of them a little lower than you'd ideally like. But that's a freaking stacked lineup.
Oh, my God.
And then you throw Mauricio in there and figure that puts Canha to the bench, McNeil to left field, Mauricio at second. And all of a sudden, you have a 9-hitter. I think Mauricio would be an electric 9-hitter because he's got absolute wheels.
He could be the Michael Harris for this team for all we know.
100% extra base hit potential, 20 homer. He's got potentially. Now, this isn't going to be this year, probably not even next year, but he's got 25 homer, 25 double potential. So, I mean, you put that guy in the 9-hole, he can swipe bags, get in a scoring position for Nimmo, who's one of our best contact hitters, probably second behind McNeil. I mean, this is an all-star lineup we're looking at right here. So, yeah, keep Beatty behind Alonso, give Pete that protection, and then go Marte and bump Alvarez up from 9 to 7. I want to see Alvarez with some more RBI opportunities.
Yeah, I agree with moving up Alvarez. I feel like that needs to happen at this point with the way he's been playing for the past couple weeks now. And Vientos, too. And I've been having discussions with people, people heavily favoring Vogie, especially yesterday. Well, Vogie has not played well over the past week plus at all. His at-bat, especially that we saw in Game 2, drove me nuts. One, I was so pissed that Buck put him out there against Diekman, a lefty, when they knew that the Rays were going to do the pitching change. And then just for him to take 3 3 called strikes and not swing once. I mean, if that isn't Vogie, like what people criticize most about him, I don't know what is. And I've always been a Vogelback fan. I mean, we even had merch of him bringing Vogelback. Like, we like Vogie. He gets on base at a good clip. But what you want out of a DH position most is that power threat. You don't have enough outside of Alonso and Lindor. Now you're starting to get it with these kids. So again, if you bring up Vientos, give him a leash, give him opportunities. Why are you going to sit him the day after he just hit a game-tying home run in his first game of the season? Because you can't even argue pitching matchups anymore, because Vientos killed it against righties in AAA to start the year. This isn't one of those things where you want to develop him as a platoon player. No, you don't, because if you do, then you put him in a situation like Vogelback is, where he's even more limited than he should be, right? So Vogelback never had an issue facing lefties, yet MLB teams decided to platoon him that way, and now he's even more limited than what he initially wanted, right? So Vientos, Buck Showalter wants to give him reps at third base that we saw. But we saw in that little sample size, Vientos is not a third baseman. I'm sorry. He is a first base, a DH type. And if he's going to be on this roster for an extended period of time, he needs to be in that exact position. Maybe every once in a while he switches with Alonso DHs. That isn't the biggest thing in the world, right? You know, neither of them play elite defense at first base to begin with. So,
but that's an upgrade right there from Vogie, because Vogie can't do that. Vogie hasn't played a lick of first base since he's been a Met.
Yeah,
so
no, you're not wrong. Yeah.
You know, it's almost more like a Darren Ruff role, obviously much better than Darren Ruff, but where Darren Ruff would occasionally play first to give Pete a day off in the field. Vientos can do that. He's capable at first base. Vogie's just not capable in the field. He's strictly a DH. You're losing there. You're losing on power. By the way, I just want to address a comment we just got about the lineup configuration I threw out there regarding having Nimmo lead off and having McNeil hit second, because I completely understand. I'm not trashing the person who commented this. I don't even have their name in front of me. Not at all me trashing you, just me walking through why I don't care about having lefties back-to-back, because that was what they said. They said, why would you have a lefty hit one in first and second back-to-back? To me, separating lefties is something you do if their righty-lefty splits stink. Like, if I had Vogelback in a lineup, I would not want him going back-to-back with a lefty, because then the other team can bring in a reliever. Vogie's essentially an automatic out against left-handed pitching. So I wouldn't do like Beatty 5, Vogie 6, right? I would create some separation there and knock Vogie down to 7th or 8th. But Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil, the reason why I don't care one lick about having them hit back-to-back, first off, they're vets, they're professional hitters. These guys, it doesn't matter who's on the bump. They're going to be in the lineup almost every day. But let's look at their splits this year. Jeff McNeil is hitting 282 against righties, 283 against lefties. Identical. Doesn't matter who's pitching. Brandon Nimmo, 284 against righties. And how about this? 323 against lefties. Nimmo's hitting 40 points higher against lefties.
They did that last year too. Like,
yeah.
People ask me, who's your best hitters versus southpaws? I say Nimmo and McNeil right on the top of the list. It's crazy. But no, to your point, you're exactly right. Yeah, if they profile well against a righty or lefty, then it doesn't matter where they are in the sense of being back-to-back. So as we get close now to previewing this Guardian series, my final thoughts on the kids are the following. You know, you brought them up for a reason. You brought Vientos up for a reason, right? These guys, if it wasn't for them, you probably don't win this series, right? You don't get that spark that you've gotten, the life in this lab, the youth movement, and the productivity. You know, even Beatty in left field, that Buck toyed with that we saw towards the end of game 2, I didn't hate it, but at the same time, it's like, I want Beatty to continue to get consistent reps at third base. We shouldn't be doing this. Put Beatty at third, put Vientos at DH. That's what I want to see on an almost everyday basis for the foreseeable future. And it's imperative, again, that the Mets give these guys leashes now, because if, say, they aren't enough and say they become a problem even, it's good to figure this out earlier in the year, so that way you say, okay, we gave this a try for, say, a month or two. It didn't work out in our favor. Now we're going to go seek external trade options versus, say, waiting, sitting on your hands until the trade deadline, like we saw last year, where it was too little too late for this Mets team to then rush up prospects. So I'm happy they have them on the team now, but again, you had them on the roster for a reason. You're taking away reps from them in AAA playing every day, so make sure that they play almost every day here. That's the argument to be said. I know that obviously we're going to continue to see Vogie at DH in certain matchups, and even Gary Sanchez, who's just called up, will probably get, I'd say at minimum, 1 game out of the 3, which might be cutting into Alvarez's time a little bit, but especially night game to a day game, that is most justified, and Alvarez has played a lot lately. So as long as Alvarez is getting the bulk of the games that he usually does, and Sanchez comes in, we see what he gets, see if he has any pop for us. Bad 300, 1,000 OPS in 8 games in AAA with a home run and 5 RBIs. So we'll see on that front on what he can bring. But I feel like it's not rocket science with the lineup, and yet we're still left scratching our heads until Buck makes those mid-game decisions based on matchups. And I know it was a little different with the Rays because they have different pitchers, it feels like, every single inning. But this will be a key test as we now head into this Guardians series because, one, of course, for all you 7-Line fans out there and members, the 7-Line will be in attendance. They will be having their own outing this Saturday there in right center field like they usually do. So look out for your boy. I'll be hanging out with them pregame for that. I'll be sitting behind home plate. You guys can actually see me right next to the SNY scoreboard if you're watching at home. But pregame, I'm going to be heading to the marina early. That's my goal with my buddy. We're going to be hanging out with Darren and the entire 7-Line, weather permitting, because, of course, the one day of the week that's supposed to rain, it is unfortunately this Saturday, because why wouldn't it be? Every 7-Line outing for them has felt like a rain delay, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens, but the 7-Line, make sure to hang out with them pregame should they be there. They hang out right under that overpass there that you see there in the marina a lot. They have cornhole, they have drinks, they're having a great time, and I'll be hanging out with them for a bit before I head into Citi Field. And I hope to see many of you Mets fans there, so make sure to reach out if you guys want to meet up at any point. But we got a big series. This is the first time, Joe, since the famous Lindor trade that both teams are facing off. It was the Cleveland Indians then. It's the Guardians now. I mean, a whole team change on the name front, and now we got ourselves the former Cleveland Indian / Guardian. I'm going to say just Indian because he was never with them as a Guardian. And Cookie Carrasco making his return to rotation tonight at the time of recording this. And who is Carrasco facing again?
Cal Quantrill going for Cleveland.
Cal Quantrill.
Very hittable guy. I mean, Quantrill's interesting because he'll go out there and he'll give you 6 innings of 1-run ball some days. And then other days he'll go out there and he can't get out of the 4th and he's given up 7 earned. I think he's very hittable. He's a guy who really needs to hit his spots consistently because he doesn't have anything that's all that overwhelming. He's got a bunch of different pitches that are good, but nothing that's like, I would say, a plus. It all comes down to Cookie in this one. I think the Mets are going to put up runs. I think they got a little swag back. They got a little confidence finally. I think that they're going to score, but it comes down to Cookie, and can he not get shelled? On the bright side, this is a Cleveland team that really doesn't hit the ball out of the park. And we're seeing, they're not as successful this year as they were last year when they were kind of like the Mets. These two teams
You're taking the words out of my mouth, Joe. Exactly. Putting the ball in play.
Stringing together a bunch of hits. Jose Ramirez having a good year, not the MVP caliber season he had last year.
Never sleep on him, though.
Andres Jimenez, though, they've been like MIA this year. The two of them have done nothing.
Knocking on wood because they're facing the Mets now.
I know. Jimenez is going to come out here and look like Babe Ruth this series.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting. Look, I got nothing against Rosario. He had some really good years. He had some really bad moments. Sometimes where he was swinging out of his shoes at a pitch that went 56 feet, and you're like, Ahmed, what are you doing? Jimenez always showed kind of flashes of potential, but it was necessary to make that trade. We said it last year. We talked about this trade. It's one of the rare, in my opinion, win-win deals.
Absolutely.
Where both sides really made out. I'm happy with it. I wish them both the best, and I hope we sweep them this weekend.
If they could, that'd be amazing. I mean, I will be jumping for joy. Like I said, I'll be in attendance game 2 of the series Saturday. So again, look out for your boy on the scoreboard. And more than anything, I'm hoping that the weather's okay. Rain delays always piss me off, especially when I do a hike, like a 2.5 hour.
Look out for your boy on the scoreboard. What are you, Kevin James? Like you go to a Mets game and they're like, oh, hey, let's get him on the big screen.
I
fucking Ben Stiller over here. It's news to me.
Fucking you're killing me.
If they don't put Darren Meenan on the big screen, do you think they're putting Wardy on the big screen?
No. I'm literally going to be on the big screen. Yeah, they should put Darren. Darren should always be on the big screen. Yeah, I mean, my God,
Darren.
Because
Wardy paid the $400 to get on the big screen. Welcome to Citi Field, Tyler Ward. That's the biggest ripoff of all time. I don't know how people actually pay for that.
No, I know. Like the birthday stuff, too. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Okay, so getting back to what I want to say, you got Cookie game 1. Game 2, you're going to have Mad Max. We'll see how he does. Definitely an important outing against Bibby, who's the young. He's a youngster for the Cleveland who's been looking really sharp this year. Again, another young Cleveland pitcher that's coming out guns a-blazing. Not surprised. They tend to do that what feels like every year.
Yeah, had some shaky moments in his first 3 starts, but his last start, 4th start of his career against the Angels, he pitched into the 8th. Absolutely shoved. Where did he go? 7 2/3, 7 strikeouts. I mean, that Angels team, if they can do one thing, it's hit. And he only allowed 1 run in those 7+. So that was impressive.
That was impressive. And then you got Justin Verlander looking to rebound from his first Citi Field start this year against the Rays. Hopefully he gets better luck on his side. You know, the location's there. And again, give the Rays credit. They grinded out a lot of at-bats in that game, you know, a lot of full counts. And JV just didn't have the recipe for Isaac Paredes, who was Babe Ruth that series, just like how CJ Abrams was Babe Ruth against the Mets.
3 of his 4 home runs this year against the Mets.
I know.
I mean, give me a freaking break. The guy weighs like 95 pounds soaking wet.
Which is exactly why Andres Jimenez is going to be the hottest hitter for the Cleveland this series. You know,
what the hell's going on in our comments, Wardy? This is becoming like a Julie McGill fanboy moment over here. We got guys commenting about McGill's mom.
Hey, I got to pull Will Smith, but instead of wife.
Yeah, let's keep it respectful here, guys.
Take my mom's name out of your effing mouth, you know? That's got to be Tyler. Shout out to you, Julie.
It's all complimentary.
No, that's true.
Nothing got inappropriate. But
shout out to Julie. She's a great member here on WardyNYM. We do love Julie. But
yeah, Sunday Night Baseball, man. JV versus the Biebs. I love it.
That's a big one.
I love it
for sure.
Bieber hasn't been great. His strikeout numbers are way down this year. I think there's a legitimate chance we come out of this with a sweep, especially because Sunday we should have our best lineup. You know, it wouldn't shock me if I'm curious who gets the nod on Saturday behind the dish, because I feel like with them calling up Gary Sanchez,
it's got to be Alvarez.
I feel like I said Saturday because now, you know, and we didn't even address this, and we can't really deep dive it because I have to go get ready for work. I was supposed to be done with the show 5 minutes ago. But Gary Sanchez is up with the team now, so I can't see Sanchez not getting a start this entire series. I feel like Saturday might be the time, unless I'd have to look at Sanchez's numbers because he's definitely faced Bieber a bunch. But I feel like if Max is comfortable with it, maybe you start Sanchez with Max on Saturday. And I want to see all the kids in the lineup, national TV Sunday night. I want to see, I don't care about Bieber being a righty. I don't want Bogey in there. I want Vientos, Beatty, Alvarez. I want Alvarez catching JV, you know, World Series Game 1 battery mates right there. I want to see that on Sunday Night Baseball on national TV.
It's funny you say that because, of course, Buck's thought process is going to be like, you know, we're going to go with 1 instead.
Yeah, hey, Gary Sanchez did hit a home run off Shane Bieber back in 2017. So let me start him on Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah, I got nothing else to add on this guard series. Just win the series, you know, continue to get on a roll. Huge series you're coming off of, and hopefully, again, that continues. And, again, they got Steven Kwan. They have Andres Jimenez. They have J-Ram. They have pieces there. But to this point, they have certainly been underwhelming on the offensive front, and hopefully the Mets can take advantage of that.
We got a great comment, by the way. God bless you, Wardy.
Thank you.
Chalk Bunt. Just when you thought this podcast was going to be renamed Italian Cooking with Wardy and Joe, the Mets finally win a couple games. That watch party we had, I think we spent more time talking about Italian food.
It was the only way to get through it.
That was such a... We got shut out that game, right? That was such a painful
JV starts and we get shut out, dude.
That was a painful ball game to watch.
Oh, my God.
Jeez.
Never heard of her. At least in my concerns. But... guys, I think that's about going to do it. We thank you so much for watching. If you're watching live or on replay on the WardyNYM YouTube channel, thank you for the support. On the 7 Line socials, thank you for the support as well. Again, 7 Line outing this Saturday, weather permitting. So if you're in attendance, hope to see you guys there pregame in the Marina lot. And hopefully we get ourselves a good weekend of baseball, Joe. Let's get going. Let's continue the positive
I'll be able
energy.
to watch Sunday Night Baseball. Finally, dude. I have not been able to watch many games at all because of work lately. I cannot wait to watch JV shove against the Biebs.
And I cannot wait to try to sync Howie Rose so I don't have to listen to that god-awful broadcast. So, Sunday night, baby. Let's
Dude,
get
that's what I did the entire we lost in 3 games. But the playoffs last year, I would sit in my living room.
Oh, my God.
Hook up my speaker and sync the Mets radio broadcast to the game, and every commercial break I'd have to resync it. It was the most annoying fucking thing ever. Every single commercial break, one would come back out of sync, and I'd have to redo it. But I was like 2 minutes behind real time, but I did it 3 straight nights. Dedication.
You're a champ for that. I appreciate it. All right, guys, thank you so much, and we will see